Hello and welcome to this CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. We're going to take a look at this Wagtail social website that we've been working on. It's a prototype social networking website built with Wagtail CMS. The project scope is fairly simple or small. We want to have a networking site that people can register and create profiles, join regional chapters, and the chapters are coordinated by some kind of moderators or stewards who have privileges to add blog posts for the chapter. Not every user can add a post, so there's going to be some access control system there. And in activity streams, there's probably a few other features that would naturally stem from these basic ones. One feature that I'm going to focus on right now is allowing users to join the chapter and have a membership status. So without further ado, let's jump into the code. I've got development branch here. The GitHub link is at the bottom of the video feed if you're interested. And as soon as I start writing some code, we will open a pull request. Let's go ahead and create a branch. And we'll activate our virtual environment. Go to project. Just run the server to get an idea of where we stand. So it's a basic Wagtail site with Bootstrap template, nothing elaborate. You can log in and log out. When you log in, you have a couple menu options and changing your password or going to the Wagtail admin. The feature we've added so far is to allow members to create chapters, which are basically regional, but they could be other types of groups, affinity groups that might want to form that aren't so geographically oriented. But our initial chapters are geographic. You can add a chapter. Region is optional. Get some text, introduction, title. This is all pretty standard Wagtail. Not much is custom. Like I've stayed very close to the Wagtail page model and admin interface when defining these. So we're going to create a new app though for members. Memberships. Membership represents the relationship between a person and a chapter. And here I believe we're going to use a standard Django model. And so we're not going to be using the Wagtail page model. This membership is not going to really be displayed in a page on the site so much as it would be some data we could integrate onto a view, like the user profile or a membership list, chapter membership list. So the membership would have two fields. Let's see, it's a relationship. Oh, and actually, come to think of it, we might just be able to set up a many-to-many field. The thing is, I want some additional metadata, the membership status, so a many-to-many field wouldn't really fit the bill here. And in terms of, I don't know, the intermediary table and how to extend it, there might be a way. I will go ahead and manually create this intermediary table. So we'll have the member. And one thing I just realized is we should have a custom user model to make this work. We don't have a custom user model. Yes, the reason being is otherwise I'm going to have to point to the default Django user model, which is what this site's using currently. So I think we should go ahead and create an account. User model based on the abstract user, Django abstract user. So this is going to be twofold. Sorry, I do. Abstract user, I think it's the right one. And we'll just leave the default fields. Oops. I don't want to necessarily customize it. Account user. I will come back to that later. So let me see here. I'm gonna commit this scaffolded project, but I also need to be careful not to commit the changes to accounts just yet. So what's this, or the settings yet? So memberships. All right, so we'll go back to the original state and I'll come back to this. All right, so we make migrations for the, oh, yeah. I wonder if this is strange, there's this dependency issue. I think it was just the migration history, something because the account migration had been created early in the project and had been applied against the database. User model. All right, so now when we check this side, there's a couple areas we can look. So this is not a Wagtail thing, this was a Django thing. So I think it's just Django admin. Lets me log in, and then I have users and groups here. Users, there I am. Groups, editors, moderators. These groups are distinct from these chapters, which, anyway, tags, document images. I'm not typically registering the other models with this Django admin. Most of the things are done through Wagtail admin, which is available here at the admin. Yes, since I'm already logged in. All right, so I need to create the chapters index page. Excellent. There we go. So we're back up and running. Now we need these memberships, which is a relationship between a chapter and a user. So basically, if the user or the chapter are deleted, then this membership is no longer valid, so it should be also deleted. I think that's all right. I think it's okay to do. And then the other one is going to be status, which will be an enum, I think, which I'll need to define pending, active, lapsed, something like that. And we can come over here to the chapters, models, and follow suit here, basically. Should there be membership status choices or just status choices? Active, lapsed. Something along those lines. Then we'll do some more copy and pasting. Oh, yeah, now I need to register my app. Core settings, base, apps. And I need to import the localization, get text here. Excellent. So we can commit those. What is this? And I'll go ahead and push these up. GitHub and open up pull request. Should be as code will prompt me for that, but no, maybe not this time. Now we're going to read some more docs for Wagtail. Wagtail. Basically, I have to register a Django model with the Wagtail model admin. I've done this before. So we got a couple of Django models, and we want to install this Contra model admin, which we've done also. And basically, it looks like you can just define a regular model admin. Very cool. Don't have to treat it any different. So we'll come over here. Now the thing is, I haven't defined the widgets, so we'll come back to this, and I believe I'm going to need a... Well, let's see what the default choosers are. I think it's going to give me a drop-down list, which is not going to be the right one. We'll probably want page chooser widget for the chapter, and then some kind of generic entity chooser for the user, but one step at a time. Let's get this into the Wagtail admin UI. So we define Wagtail hooks.py, and we can just pretty much follow here. Well, this is let me just go to my Wagtail hooks over here. Yeah, they're the same. And we need to look at these Wagtail icons again. Stream field icons. Well, the closest I guess would just be user. It's more like a relationship between a user and a group of users. All right, anyway. Yeah. So in the list display, we're going to show the 3 fields, which were the user. Let's see, chapter, probably big endian would say a chapter. A group is bigger than an individual, so the group comes first. And we want to be able to filter actually by status. Chapter, there's not as many of those. Status. This is going to give us a little widget along the side of the screen, which will let us click filter buttons to narrow down the results table. I guess it's a list, but it renders as a table. And for this one, we'll just search the user for the search field. And we might want to get into the user properties if we're having an email and username. We'll see what the default string representation of the user is as well. So yeah, we can override it if needed. And then we just register. Okay. Great, and I think this is a runtime change. We don't need to migrate this in. Let's just run the server. And come over here. So we should have a new menu entry, memberships. All right, we haven't added any memberships yet. User, okay, yeah, it does give us a drop-down menu. Chapter, and I haven't created one of those, and we have some status. So let's create a chapter. Finland. Memberships. And active. Save. All right, so it renders the default username by default, and the title and the status. I can filter by status here, and chapter didn't show my list filter. I guess it kind of makes sense that since the chapter is a content type, you can only filter by that. So let's just remove it so there's no confusion. All right, so to fix this bug, so the user, I think I know how to do this, actually. I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna take a guess. Yeah, so a chapter, and then I got the ID for these related fields. I don't get the username, and the string representation is not letting us search on it. I think I've solved this in another project. What I'll do, just add a to-do. That's not going to work, but I'll leave it in there just to show where I left off. So rather than fight that particular one, just disabling is good for now. Let's go ahead and see if I can improve how we select things. So for example, when I add a membership or edit a membership, I'd prefer to use a page chooser here. So for that, I think I can give Wagtail a little bit of a hint by defining these edit widgets, panel types. Let's just see if Wagtail will. Let me do this by default chapters. If I put a content panels property on the membership model. Now this is a Django model, and this content panels is a property of the Wagtail page model. But Wagtail might see this property and pick it up. Actually, I don't need that. Let's see. Let's just try field bound real quick. See if I can even define this. All right, so I think that's just going to display the same field, but if we want a page chooser panel, also the field doesn't exist. So that's why nothing happened there. Cool. Alright, so that's not going to work the way I was hoping. Since it's a regular Django model, this content panels isn't picked up by Wagtail. So I think there's a way to do this though. There's panels I've seen before on. Yeah, actually that works. So there we go. Perfect. Awesome. Does it work? Yeah. Okay, great. So we just need to define it. Now I need to define these other ones. We'll fix that in a minute, and then the status. So without this panels property, it renders all the fields as in field panels. Status is fine. Now, there's a third-party module here that I was checking out today. Wagtail instance selector. It's got a relatively recent development. It's not super active, but Matt Westcott's contributed. He's one of the core developers, Wagtail developers. I mean, the level of code here is minimal, so I think there's not a high risk of taking on this kind of a project. And what this is going to let me do is take an arbitrary model instance instead of a page. So let's try it. Let's try it out. Doesn't have any other dependencies. Add it to our installed apps, and they want this X-frame options, which I'm not sure where that should go. Put it down here, probably somewhere as a field panel. So then we're going to import it. Bring it over to our model. And then selection panel instead of field panel in the user, we're going to do instance selector panel. Now, we're not defining it or in any particular way, so let's see how it works. Choose user. Right. Ah, wow, that was interesting. So when I choose user, I can add a user. I can edit my user. But how do I select my user? This is weird. He's like rendering it correctly. Maybe I have to save my user. Oh, that's unfortunate. I need to add a string representation here. It's basically working. It's a little bit buggy. I probably should just read the docs. So overall, though, I'm liking it. Yeah. Ah, darn it. How do Python have strings work? Yeah, single question makes sense. Cool, and I should probably add a distinct together rule at some point. User and chapter should be distinct together. Or unique together. So let me go ahead and commit these couple little things. I won't go probably through every needed change tonight. I just want to make some bit of progress here and do a recap here. Just probably wrap it up within the hour. Actually, let me do this. Getting a little bit sloppy with my commits, but okay. Unique together. So we're going to run that, check it out. If I can now create a duplicate of myself with Finland. This is knowing that I have to save the user before I can select them. It's not what I was expecting. Great. All right, so we got the uniqueness constraint. Let's see if we can do a little bit. Maybe it's in the docs, and I'll close it if it is. Admittedly, I'm a little bit tired, in a rush. Documentation. It's going to be tailored for that. Let me see if it's a responsiveness issue. There's nothing to click. The only thing to click is here. Let's see, peak installed. Let's get an animated GIF. Cool, I think that captures it. I hope there's a way to do that, but I'm not going to invest in it too much at this time. I can look for an alternative, but I believe this is fairly good progress. I'll wrap up. On the chapters page, we want to display members probably. Create a draft pull request. I can do some more work on this tomorrow. All right, so let's see what we've got. We've got a new app. Membership, we got model and Wagtail hook to register it. A few changes to the base configuration. Those are pretty much documented. I'll kind of leave those out. Well, I guess it doesn't hurt to mention the project instance selector. Okay, we'll wait for the Loki to stop. Welcome to the recap of today's CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. I've been continuing to work on this Wagtail social networking website. Opened a pull request to allow members or users of the site to join social chapters. In the pull request, we've touched a few files, but essentially we haven't done anything to the kind of front end of it. But we have a membership management user interface. So this is a work in progress. It's a draft pull request. So I'll have to probably continue working on the front end of it. Tomorrow I'll have to sketch out some design ideas. What we've done is when you have one or more chapters created, you can come to a new kind of page, admin page, where you can add a membership. And essentially what it allows you to do is choose a user and a chapter and a status from a predefined list. For the chapter, we have this Wagtail page chooser, which works pretty good out of the box. It's pretty functional. You just kind of pick it here. For the user select, it's a little bit problematic, but using a third-party module called Wagtail Instance Selector that lets you select an arbitrary instance rather than just a Wagtail page instance like the page chooser. But it is designed to reuse the Wagtail editing interface. So essentially what it should really do is just when I hover the row, it should kind of behave like that, and it's not. What it makes me do is save the user before I can select them. So it's not an ideal user experience because I don't believe we'll want to necessarily edit the user profile every time we're just selecting one. In any case, I opened a support request in their GitHub issue tracker, and I'll see if I get a response. I can try other alternatives as well. I think there's a couple of other packages that do a similar thing. I like this one because it aligns with the way the Wagtail templates are displayed. So let's try to keep this short and check out the code that makes this happen. So we've installed the instance selector and registered with our installed apps. There was one configuration. I should mention that I also created a custom user model, so we can take a quick look at that. It was just in the process of this. This X-frame option, same origin, I guess, is what allows us to open that little modal dialog and populate it with data. In order to make this work, I create this new membership model, and I'll just go over the membership model, and then it'll make sense why I've introduced a custom user model. Essentially, a membership can have a status, and I've just come up with a couple of them: pending, active, and lapsed. And a membership is a relationship between a person and a chapter. So we just have foreign key relationships to those models. And since I was making it using this foreign key, I didn't want to use the default Django model, user model, which I had planned to swap out, and so this became the right time to swap it out. And finally, I'll just spin through these. We've got a status field that uses those choices defined above, text choices. And our meta field defines that a user and chapter should be unique together. So a user can't really have maybe two memberships in a chapter. We can come back to this if there's going to be the possibility of having time-bound memberships or something like that, where you want to keep track that this person was a membership in 2019 and then 2021 or something like that. But for now, one user, one chapter, unique together. And then we can register this with the Wagtail admin user interface. And when we do so over here, Wagtail needs to know what kind of editing panels it needs to render the fields. By default, if you leave these off, Wagtail will do its best to infer, and it'll use like a field panel, which in this case made all of the fields drop-down menus like this, which could be problematic if you've got a lot of chapters or a lot of users. So I think this modal dialog approach with search and things like that, I think is a better user experience. So hence we installed this instance selector panel extension or plugin or module, and use the page chooser panel for the chapter and the regular field panel for status, which this drop down is fine. And finally, this is a regular Django model, so we need to define the string representation, so it'll show in the user interface in a sensible manner. We went ahead and registered it with the model, with the Wagtail admin and UI, using regular model admin registration. This is really no different than a page model. It's the same properties and everything. It just works. It's really a remarkable thing about Wagtail. One of the things I would like to have is the ability to search memberships. The little search bar would appear here by the username or user email or something like that. But I don't remember off the top of my head how to search properties in a related. So this would be a user field on the membership instance, and then it should allow me to traverse into the username, into the user object somehow. I don't know if it's possible. I believe it is. I just didn't want to wrestle with it. I wanted to move on. So I put a little note to self there to see if I can circle back around to it. In any case, you can filter by membership status and define which fields to display, and it's using this default string representation of the user, which is the username, and the chapter, which is the title. And briefly, I'll point out our custom user model is just a couple lines here. It's really just giving me something to hook into, to point to, and potentially expand on. So we're using the same abstract user, which has first name, last name, all those fields, and not doing anything to it. And a couple of things that needed to change with the Django admin, which we're not using as much as the Wagtail admin. I went ahead and still registered this user admin using the custom user model. I guess it was in the Django docs, so I was just following them. And then the final thing was telling our project what the auth user model is. So in our settings, we have this auth user model property, which you might have noticed was used over here. Settings, auth user model. So we can refer to it in other places. Yep, so that's it. It's a work in progress. It's a draft pull request. I'll put the link in the chat and see if we can get it into a good working order and get some feedback on it. This has been a CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. If you're interested in getting involved in this or similar projects, stop by CodeBuddies.org and join one of these hangouts. There's a lot of them. I've been doing some Django hangouts, but there's CodeBuddy Rewrite there. Rewriting the platform as open source and learning data structures, and there's a lot of various study groups as well. So there's a lot of ways to get involved in CodeBuddies and extend your knowledge and help others along their learning journey. All right, well, thank you very much for your time. Have a great day and stay safe out there.